Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Antonia. I hope you guys are doing well. Today I have a little bit of a story time for you guys, as I asked you in my Loewe puzzle bag unboxing if you guys would be interested in a authentication services / pre-loved handbags video, and you guys said yes. So I'm very excited to give you guys this new kind of story time, I guess, video, because it's not very much like me to do so, but here we go. So I am a big lover of buying pre-loved handbags. I have quite a few pre-loved handbags in my collection myself, and my little rule of thumb is that I like to use authentication services. Now, I only recently have had my eyes kind of like, with these authentication services, specifically with two instances. Now, before I purchased my Loewe puzzle handbag off of the Loewe website, because here in Canada there are no Loewe standalone stores or retailers, you have to go through like Holt Renfrew or Essence to buy a Loewe puzzle bag. Before I bought my Loewe puzzle bag, I had wanted to buy two other Loewe puzzle bags pre-loved. The first one was back in like December of 2021, and that was when I really wanted a tan colored bag added to my collection. Now, I had three tan colored bags that I specifically wanted. It was an Hermes Evelyn TPM, a Hermes Picotin 18, and then the Loewe puzzle bag. And I went online to look at them. They were retailing for about $3,700, and I was like, I don't really want to pay that price. So I went into looking for a pre-loved one. I saw one listed on Poshmark Canada. The listing had been up for about 6 months. I messaged the girl, very lovely lady, and we went back and forth. She kind of gave me a little bit of a break on it because she had it up for a while and she kind of just wanted to sell it. So with communication with her, perfection, I told her, hey, do you mind sending me some photos? I'm going to send it into an authentication service on my dime, not hers. And she was like, yeah, go for it. So I sent it into Authenticate first, and it came back as counterfeit. And then I messaged her and I said, I'm so sorry, I just don't feel comfortable with the purchase because I did get it. I did get the result back as counterfeit. And she goes, okay, no problem. Just so you know though, I bought it off of this Instagram like reseller, and I had it authenticated with, I think she used like Doctor or something. I can't remember what the authentication service is that she had used. But at the end of the day, because I was not comfortable with it on my end being counterfeit, I decided not to go through with it. Now, you might be saying like, Antonia, Authenticate First is not really known to authenticate Loewe puzzle bags, and I do understand that, but at the time that was the authentication service that I was more used to using, and I just used them because I had an account. Flash forward to May of 2023, so this year, very recent actually. Before I bought my bag, I really specifically had been wanting the Loewe puzzle in small now, and I changed my mind on the colorway. I wanted the sand / mink combination, which came out in like fall winter of 2022. So that bag is discontinued now. You cannot find it on their website. You can find the sand color, maybe. I do know that the Loewe puzzle in general is being discontinued, so maybe you'll be able to find it, but I really specifically at the time wanted that specific colorway because the mink color is a little bit of a darker color, so the handle and the shoulder strap, it was the darker color, and the body of the bag was sand. So I really wanted that one. I was looking around, putting around on like the pre-loved market, and then I came across a post on Facebook Marketplace, and a girl was selling it, and it was for a decent price point. So I messaged her and she said, hey, I'm so sorry, the bag is actually pending pickup, so it might sell. And I was like, okay, no problem. She was actually based in Montreal, so I was like, okay, whatever. I won't be able to get this bag from her anyways, it's fine. So that happened, and then I got an update from Facebook Marketplace being like, hey, that bag you were looking at, it decreased in price. So I messaged her again and I was like, hey, did your bag not sell? And she was like, no, it didn't. So sorry, I like forgot to message you. And I was like, no worries, whatever. So I asked her if she'd be okay if I again authenticated the purchase on my dime, and she was like, fully go for it. Very communicative again, very nice. And I used Authenticate First, and it came back as authentic, but This time around, I was like, I don't know, something feels a little off. And I researched, and then I was looking and looking, and Authenticate First, again, I'm not bashing the company in any way, I've used them before, but they didn't ask me for many photos, and I felt like maybe there wasn't enough photos that they like looked at for them to know if it was authentic. So I was kind of doing my research again, and I went through to Purse Forum, and then a lot of people said, if you're gonna buy a Loewe puzzle bag, definitely use Holy Grails. So I decided, hell, I'll just do a second authentication, because sometimes having a second perspective or opinion is a great thing to do. So sent it through to Holy Grails. This time around, super thorough with Holy Grails. I would use them again. They were so thorough in their authentication service, emailed me back and forth a million times requesting more photos, specifically like circling areas that they wanted a really clear photo of. And I felt so bad because I kept asking the seller, like, can you take more photos? And honestly, she was really kind, and she did send me all the photos that I needed. But I know it was probably kind of like annoying for her, because constantly I was just like, can you send me photos, can you send me photos, can you send me photos of this, XYZ, send her the email being like they want this and whatnot. So anyways, after a ton of emails of back and forth, they got back to me saying that the bag was counterfeit. Now you're like, Antonia, the bag is in Montreal, why would you even consider again? I happened to have been going to Blink-182 that weekend, so I was like, this is perfect. If the bag is real, then I will go and buy this bag, because I think she was selling it for about like $3,000 or something, and the Loewe puzzle bag now retails for like $4,100 or $4,200. I can't remember. This is before taxes, right? So I was like, ooh, that would be such a steal. Anyways, it came back as counterfeit, and I did tell her, I'm so sorry, I don't feel comfortable purchasing it, because at the end of the day, Holy Grails took so much of their time to authenticate this bag, where they asked me for so many thorough photos and everything. So I felt like my confidence in them was high, and I decided, okay, no, I don't feel comfortable buying the bag, knowing in the back of my mind that one said it was authentic, one said it was counterfeit. I mean, I could have done a third authentication, but honestly at that point, because Holy Grails was so thorough, I decided to end it there. I was talking to Alex about it, and she was like, Antonia, I don't think you should go through with the purchase. And honestly, she's right? At the end of the day, it's like whatever you feel comfortable with. But not only that, like, you don't want to be spending that much money on a bag and then be scammed by it, right? So anyways, she did tell me that she sent it to Retouche, and Retouche had given her a quote back on how much the bag would be consigned for and everything. And she was like, just so you know, I am sending to Retouche, and Retouche is accepting it. So I think that was her like last way of kind of selling her bag, is to send it to consignment. And at the end of the day, I told her, I'm sorry, I just don't feel comfortable buying it. And the reason why I lost confidence in her, actually, not only because of Holy Grails being so thorough in their process, but I lost confidence in her because when I asked her where she purchased the bag, she didn't have a straight answer for me. And I think that's weird, because at first she was like, oh, I got it from a buyer. I'm like, okay, what's the buyer? And she didn't want to say. And then I was like, well, like, where did the buyer get it from? And she was like, oh, somewhere in Europe. So like, the story wasn't very straight, right? And I didn't have confidence in her with that, because it was just so vague, the story way. So in the end, I did tell her I'm sorry and thank you so much for your time. I was so apologetic because I did waste a lot of her time, right? And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable buying the bag, and then parted ways. And after having those two experiences, specifically with Loewe and me not knowing the brand very well, I decided it would be best to buy brand new and like straight from the source. I was like, I need to buy it from Loewe themselves, because then I know it's real. But it's not to say I don't like buying pre-loved handbags. Specifically vintage is a lot easier to authenticate, because there are less, not that there's no replicas about those, but there are less replicas, I'd say, because back then to buy a replica, you'd have to like go to like Canal Street or something like that, right? But like nowadays, if you're buying a replica bag, there's so many things on the gate. There's so many like websites that you can buy these replicas from, Instagram sellers and stuff like that. So it's really, really easy to buy a replica. And I don't have problems with if you're gonna buy a replica. I don't care. It's the fact that someone is trying to scam you for money to buy a replica. That's the little scary part. But I do have like recent bags that are newer and pre-loved. So I bought a Gucci Jackie mini from Mine and Yours based out of Vancouver. I know that bag is authentic because it actually had a defect after a while when I got it from them, and I went to Gucci and they did service the bag. So that, in that sense, I know it's real. But a lot of times I think you just have to be a little bit more, I don't know. Nowadays, I think I'm a little bit more aware, a little bit more diligent on this topic because there's just so many counterfeits out there. And again, if you're looking to buy a handbag, I think the best way to do it is, in the pre-loved market, the best way to do it is to really like do your research on the bag. And at the time, I did not ever touch a Loewe bag before. And really, I should have went to like Holtz and like touched it, looked at it and whatnot prior, but I didn't, and that's why I was like a little bit hesitant buying it when it came back as counterfeit. Trusting these authentication services to kind of protect you, right? So it's not to say that they are 100% accurate all the time. My friend Sarah, who has Chanel bags, like a lot of Chanel bags, she's used them before and they have deemed her Chanel bags as counterfeit, but I know for a fact she bought them at the boutique, right? So you do have to take these things with a grain of salt. These days, newer bags are just harder to authenticate. I think pre-loved vintage bags are a lot easier to authenticate because, like, for example, my Chanel single flap I had once upon a time in my collection. I sold that I think last year. It was a jumbo single flap. I bought it from Hot Classics here in Toronto, and it had an authentication certificate from Atelier, so I knew it was authentic. And they just don't make those bags like that anymore. They just feel a lot different. The quality is just so much higher, and the standards back then were just like a little bit higher. So yeah, just at the end of the day, do your research, do your due diligence. But that is how I almost bought counterfeit bags. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Make sure to follow me on Instagram _HelloHarley. Follow me on TikTok at HelloHarley, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!